Ukrainian drones attacked the Russian military airfield Engels after the Russians rolled out 60 containers with missiles to an open area and the defense forces learned about it. Aviation expert Valery Romanenko said this on the air of the telethon. He noted that the ammunition depot, fuel depot and technical and operational part are the usual elements of any military airfield. In particular, both Tu-160 and Tu-95MS missile carriers and Tu-22M3 bombers are based at the Engels airfield. That is why cruise missiles and aerial bombs were stored at this airbase. So in general, such an airfield infrastructure is logical. The only thing is that the Russians managed to roll out more than 60 containers right onto the site near the warehouses, the expert said. According to him, these containers contained missiles with which the Russians were carrying out some actions, technical inspections or something else. As the analyst noted, when Ukrainian analysts saw such a spectacle on satellite images, it was simply impossible to refrain from reacting. And the Russians got it, of course. It got it beautifully. A spectacular mushroom grew, Romanenko added. At the same time, he noted that this strike would not have a strong impact on the occupiers' massive missile strikes. In particular, the enemy has many such warehouses and has established serial production of the corresponding missiles. As reported, recently a drone strike was carried out on the Russian airfield Engels in the Saratov region, as a result of which a powerful explosion occurred there and a secondary detonation of ammunition began. Later it became known that the drone strike definitely hit a warehouse with cruise missiles Kh-555 and Kh-101 for bombers based at this airfield. Military expert Anatoly Krapchinsky claims that Engels is the only airfield that stores most of the strategic missiles flying over Ukraine. According to the expert, Russian aircraft are equipped there in order to return to other airfields, from where they carry out combat sorties over Ukraine. According to him, there are warehouses with weapons and fuel and lubricants at the point of the strike. If I am not mistaken, there are a sufficient number of reservoirs directly at the airfield. This is provision for Russian strategic aircraft. It would be good to deprive them of a couple of strategic aircraft, because this is a non-renewable resource, just like the aircraft that may be in Diaghilevo Air Base in Ryazan, which we can reach with Neptunes, said Krapchinsky.
Large crowds again took to the streets across Slovakia on Friday to voice their opposition to populist Prime Minister Robert Fico and his pro-Russian policies. According to Associated Press, over the last 3 months, tens of thousands of people have rallied every fortnight in Bratislava and beyond, demanding Fico's resignation. The protests began in late December after Fico's trip to Moscow for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, a rare visit to the Kremlin by a European Union leader since Moscow's all-out invasion of Ukraine began more than 3 years ago, and his remarks that Slovakia might consider leaving the 27-nation EU and NATO. Fico, who survived an assassination attempt in May 2024, has faced calls to resign over his comments about future EU and NATO membership and his claim that Russia had security reasons to invade Ukraine. Fico's views on Russia have sharply differed from the European mainstream. He returned to power last his party won a parliamentary election in 2023.
My sme dnes mali napísať odbornú príručku.
Nielen o štatutároch, ale aj o členoch mimovládnych, kde sa ani netají tým, že ide výhradne po mimovládkach. Takto postupoval aj Putin v roku 2012 po protestoch v Moskve.
Teraz by som vás rada predviedla Slovenskou národnou galériou.
Paralizuje ma to. Naopak, motivuje ma to. A zakričme spoločne. Dosť bolo Fica!
Európa prejavila svoju rozhodnosť.
The Ukrainian armed forces have struck a gas metering station used to transport gas to Europe in the city of Suja, Kursk region of Russia. Local telegram channels reported this. After the strike, a powerful explosion and fire occurred at the station. There is no information on the extent of the damage and casualties. It is said that gas transit to Europe has stopped. Russian sources claim that the fire was visible from the border between Kursk and Sumy regions. The Suja station was previously used by Gazprom to export gas through Ukraine to Europe, but Ukraine has since stopped accepting Russian gas. Russia has not issued an official statement about the incident, but Russian telegram-based media outlets Mash and Baza blamed Ukraine for the attack. The station at Suja was the only point through which Russian gas had passed on its way through Ukraine and on to Europe until Ukraine declined to prolong a transit agreement in January this year. A second crossing point was closed in 2022. Ukrainian media also reported the strike and posted video footage of the blaze, as did telegram channels in the Kursk region. Unofficial Russian military blogs said they believed Ukrainian forces had staged the attack. The Baza telegram channel, close to the Russian security services, said the pipeline had been damaged. Suja was one of the first towns to be captured by Ukrainian forces in the mass cross-border attack last August. Ukrainian forces held large swathes of the region, but Russian forces have been taking back territory in recent weeks, and Moscow's military last week said it had recaptured Suja. Russian bloggers reported that Moscow's forces had crept for several kilometers through the pipeline as part of the operation to retake the area. Suja is the only station through which gas was pumped for transit to Europe by Gazprom, with a volume of 42 million cubic meters per day. The station was an important element of the gas transport system of Ukraine.
На замену скидывать видео.